Okay, everybody, so before we get into the what sold portion of this video, I just have to thank a couple people. First of all, Pauline, thank you so much for sending us those coffees. She used the link in my description, the Buy Me a Coffee link, and sent us over some coffee. So thank you so much for supporting us and supporting the channel in that way. And then also I wanted to thank Mitzi, who sent me a tip through PayPal, and I just wanted to tell you why she felt the need to express her appreciation that way. Mitzi had watched one of my videos, and if you remember a while back, I did a video about viewer success stories, and it was about a certain video that was about high selling craft category items. We talked about the Singer walking presser foot, things like that. Well, Mitzi had seen that video, and then at a church sale, she found one of the embroidery hoops that we talk about in that video. And it was just even a small one, and I'll put up a sold here, but she sold it for $365. So that is super exciting. I've mentioned Mitzi before. If you watched Flatware Friday, she was also the one who had a really good flatware score recently. Couple good flatware scores recently, and so I think the lesson is we all just need to shop where Mitzi shops. Anyway, I'm so excited when you guys are able to take some of the information that you learn from me and then turn around and apply it and like find the things that we talk about here. Some of the things I haven't even found yet, but I do like sharing my experience with you. So we are going to talk a little bit about the auction too that I wanted to update you guys on. I'll just put my sold comp up here right now. Let's just talk about it right now. It doesn't technically fall in this week that I'm about to share with you, but I know some of you guys are curious about what happened with the auction and things like that. So the art book, the Van Dongen art book, ended up selling at auction for $830. So again, we had seen some comps that were like super, super high, but they were, what, 10 years ago or so. We talked about condition. We talked about the fact that it's a different economic climate these days. And so I started the auction at $500, and looking at some of, like, I had asked you guys in the comments to kind of guess what's going to happen. And it was so funny because the guesses were kind of like that I would get one bid, just sell it for the $500. And then other people were so optimistic and so positive about a bidding war and it going super high. So I do appreciate all the positivity on that score. It was definitely, like I said before, one of those situations where I felt like anything could happen. And that's kind of the exciting part of reselling when you find something like that. So again, I only paid like $2 for the book, and I sold it for $830. We just shipped it out today. The buyer took his full 4 days to pay, but fortunately was in kind of communication with me about what was going on. And so he finished up that payment today. And it was an international buyer, in case you're curious. It's going to London. And I think it was a collector. So it was one of the collectors who had reached out earlier to me. And he was thinking he'd get outbid by a book dealer or somebody like that. But condition, I think, played a big role in the bidding process on there. He was a collector of that artist. And so I know he was excited about some of the pictures that were included in that book. So I am so glad it got, hopefully it's going. I use the eBay International program, so I just have to get it to Illinois, I think it is, and then it goes on from there. And hopefully this collector is super happy with what he found. But, it's just kind of cool that this like beat up book is just sitting in this tiny thrift store in Montana, but there's somebody in England who wants it, right? So I just think it's really cool to be able to connect those things up together. So let's go over to the computer, and we are going to talk about, I think it's the week of like October 14th through the 20th. And let's just talk about some other items that we've been able to connect up to grateful buyers. Well, hopefully they're grateful. We are going to start with eBay as usual, and we're going to start with this turntable record player that Mr. Pish Posh found, I think, at Goodwill. And he, hold on one second. Okay, so we picked it up at Goodwill one day. He kind of took a chance on it because he looked it up, and if it was working, it would be worth quite a bit of money, but even people were selling them for parts or repair, as you can see is what we ended up selling it for. And he actually ended up taking an offer for $85, and because it was not working in parts or repair. So the person who bought it had given him instructions on how to ship it, which was not something he took offense at. He said he was actually pretty grateful because he hadn't shipped one of these before. And obviously the buyer had experience, purchasing these and had probably experienced all sorts of shipping situations. So he did record a video of him following those instructions. I'll probably post that separately from this video. And we have a little bit of footage of different shipping situations that I'm going to try to have him finish up the videos, get them edited, and then just kind of sprinkle them out to the channel as I can and get them out there. So keep an eye out for that one. So like I said, that one sold for $85 parts or repair plus shipping as usual. Sold this hat for $19.99. It was on sale. We were running a sale. We've been playing around a lot with our sales and coupons and promotion rates and things like that. And so we're just kind of figuring out what feels like it works the best. We don't have any for sure conclusions yet, but sometimes it's just good to kind of mix things up a little bit, just because you'll get some people love to use coupons. Some people would rather see a sale price. I don't know that it would necessarily make one formula is perfect for everybody. Okay, so the next one was this race collar. Again, a Mr. Pish Posh pickup. He sold that one for $22, something we just kind of picked up along the way in our travels. This one only sold for $12. He took an offer for that. I think he just wanted to move it. It's nothing super special. I don't think we paid a ton for it. It might have been at a thrift store, had tops or shirts for $1 one day, and it might have been something he picked up there. I can't remember. This one, he hasn't answered me. I had texted him. This sold for $79.99. I'm trying to remember if this is the one that possibly we just bought on one of our trips. But in any case, this, I thought maybe it was a personal item that he was selling off, but he did say he bought it for resale. So I'm sorry, I don't have the information right now about how much he paid for it or anything like that. But I do remember him buying a tool recently on a trip that was maybe $20 or something like that. I'm not sure if that was this one. Next up is another hat. And I do have to talk about our hat situation. In the sense that we sell a lot of hats, but it's because we have a really good, inexpensive source for them. But I might do a separate video. Anyway, the place where we get these will be undergoing some changes soon. And so I'm not sure that we'll have the same type of situation, same type of source for inexpensive hats that we can just take chances on. So there might be some adjustments in that coming up in the next couple months. I noticed a little typo just now in the title, but anyway, that one sold for $18. And then guys, look, so exciting. I found a Smathers and Branson belt, and what was super exciting is because when I did the men's belt video, this brand came to my attention. It came to, got onto my radar, right? Reselling Rolodex, Smathers and Branson. I knew to look for hand stitched and everything. So it totally figures that the first time I actually find one, I have no idea what it's for. Like I don't even, it's not, these are custom made. So it's really cool. Like if you can find one that's like for the masters or for something totally recognizable to other people in the country, those sell for really good money. But when I finally found this belt, I think I paid $4 to $5 for it. Possibly $3, possibly less. I don't know that the thrift store had it up high, but it was half off that day. And as you can see, it just said BC 2013 with like a little trophy kind of flower pot type thing. No clue what it's all about. We tried to research, we looked. We even had somebody messaged, we listed it, somebody messaged and said, do you know what it's about? And we were like, have no idea. I'm sorry. If you know, if you find out, let us know. But in any case, I debated because I was like, oh, it's Smathers and Branson, but it's like so obscure. But I was like, you know what? I've not found one before and I want to see, you know, what all the hype is about. Let's see how good it sells. And I was paying a small enough amount that I was okay with the fact that if I sold it for $25, I mean, that's a sweet price for most of my belts anyway. But this thing sold for the full asking price of $49.99. So we got good feedback on it and everything like that. So either the person knew or they didn't care. They just liked the colors and the look and the fact that it's Smathers and Branson, right? It's kind of a golf belt kind of style and everything. So let me show you where it says it right there. Smathers and Branson hand stitched needle point. So definitely add it to your reselling Rolodex for belts and look for that needle point style. Okay, check one off my reselling list. And then here is, if you've watched me for any length of time, one of my favorite bread and butter utensils to find and sell. This one sold for $17. We usually sell them anywhere in that 16, 17, 18 up to 20 and a little bit higher depending on the brand. Spar is a pretty basic one and that's kind of a sweet spot, $18, $19, $20 for the Spar ones. Some of the other Scandinavian ones we might go a little bit higher or even depending on the color of the handle, things like that. This one actually only sold for $20, but it's a tape dispenser, and I always look in the office. I've done a video or two, maybe just one, about office supplies, so I always look, and anything vintage, new in the box, I'll take it. It was beige, not super exciting, so $20, we're happy to move that along. We got the Revere Wear percolator on the side of the road on one of our trips, and it was at an estate or a garage sale, and it was in the free box, and it was pretty trash, nasty looking and everything. And Mr. Pish Posh grabbed it just because he said, you know what, this would be like really good to just practice, or it was like a personal challenge to him to fix it up. So he got it all cleaned up. There was a like crack in the lid or something like that. We had at first had it listed as is, like all together, and then he changed his mind on that and decided to part it out. And so this was the first section of parts that sold, and they sold for $18. Tilly, we found two Tilly hats recently, and Mr. Pish Posh found this one. I'm drawing a blank. I remember being together maybe on one of our short little road trip type things, and he had an armful of stuff, and I remember him going, hey, look, I found a Tilly hat. So he found this one, and this sold for $50. I'll show you the inside, what to look for. It says Tilly hat right on the inside, and then you also want to inside the hat. It hasn't happened to me yet, but just as an FYI, if you find a Tilly hat, there's actually behind this label is like a pocket where you can put valuables and things like that. So I have heard, always check that little pocket. Sometimes people stick cash or whatever in there, and just in case. I always look, but you never know. That one sold. Tilly hats usually sell pretty quickly for us. This one sold faster. And then you'll see in a couple slides the one I found at Goodwill. This mug only sold for $10. We usually try to get a little bit more for our mugs, but I think I just let Mr. Pish Posh decide whether to take the offer or not. We got a $10 offer and he just took it. Anyway, here's the bottom. If you ever see this little bird mark, it's an anthropology mark. And these are just, I usually pick up the monogram initial mugs from Anthropology, just bread and butter type thing. They do sell, maybe not super fast. Maybe certain varieties sell a little faster than others. But I don't know. We were probably impatient for some sales that day, and so we moved that one along. Next up are some vintage eyeglasses. What we tend to do on these older styles, you look on the nose piece, bridge, I don't know, whatever you call it. And it's usually written on there whether it's gold filled or not. And so we just make sure to put that in the title. Make sure you have measurements and such on pieces like this, because a lot of people will take these to go get their own prescription put in to the vintage frames. Okay, those sold for $30 on an offer. Tailor-made hat. This was like a new with tags hat that I found at the thrift store. We sold that one for $21.59. It's not really golf season. We're kind of coming out of that. And I found this, it sold really quickly, within a few weeks. But I'm sure it's the new with tags part that helped quite a bit. And then here's the other Tilly hat. It was navy blue, seemed to be not as desirable a color for whatever reason, and it was a little bit more beat up. We sold that one for $27.99. It was 20% off the original price. Then this is a fun pair of sneakers that I found at Goodwill one day. So Converse does do some custom, like you can design your own Converse sneakers. And so we couldn't find any like this, like anywhere. So at first we thought, oh man, well, let's go super high or whatever. But it also had like an embroidered name, SANA, and we were trying to see if that was anything special, to see if these were connected to anything special. And so we started out over $100, $125, and we sold them during our sale of 20% off. So I thought that was a good deal. I did pay up quite a bit at Goodwill. Our Goodwill does have flat rates on clothing, but not on shoes. And so they price whatever they want on the shoes. And so these were like I said, $24 at the store, or $24.99 or something like that. So I see some pretty high prices on the shoes at that Goodwill. I don't buy a ton there. I just thought these were unusual enough that paying up a little bit for them would be worth it. And I did think maybe they'd go on Depop or someplace like that faster, but they sold on eBay. Sold another hat. This one just sold for $15.19 in the sale. And sold some hair rollers. So this brand, Gilbert, these have been sitting, in our stuff for a while. They needed a little bit of cleaning. I knew they were like a good price. We decided to end up putting them together. Like I knew they did have a fairly good selling price is what I was going to say, comps. And anyway, it's nice and compact, and each one holds like the 3 rollers kind of like stacked together. So that's kind of cool. So anyway, we put the 2 sets together, and then during the sale, someone bought them for $72. And last on eBay was this vintage hat for $31.99, low alpine, and it was a Gore-Tex hat, like a rain hat for hiking and stuff like that. So $31.99, such a nice price for that one. Now, if you'll notice, something I noticed today, and I notice it every week, we're switching now from eBay to our other platforms that we sell on. And so it's usually like half and half, right? Like on an average week. So you could technically say I double my sales by cross-posting to other platforms. Now, I've said many times before, I use Vendoo. Vendoo helps us to cross-post fairly quickly to multiple platforms. And you don't have to use a cross-listing platform. Like if you just want to start by cross-posting to Posh, you could just upload your photos to eBay, make your listing, upload your photos to a listing on Posh, copy and paste. Like you wouldn't have to necessarily use any software for that. We do because we kind of have gone into multiple platforms as well. Anyway, I always have a link down in my description for Vendoo if that's something you want to try out. And it's a matter of finding a platform, the other platforms that you feel comfortable with, that you feel like you want to try. So let's take a look at what ended up selling on Posh. We sold these sneakers. I don't think we made anything on these sneakers. Like I said, my Goodwill likes to price things up, especially Vans and things like this. I bought these at Goodwill for my son just in case. They seem like they should be his size, that they should fit him, but he didn't quite like how they fit. He's gotten into skateboarding recently, and so that day I brought home a few different pairs of Vans from the store. I did return, I think, one pair that didn't fit. This pair, I think he thought he was going to use, and then he wore them once and they gave him a blister. So not quite his size. And anyway, so at that point, we just ended up deciding to sell them ourselves. And, I can't remember if they were like $20 at the store. So basically, we were just trying to get our money back out of them. And then this fun little belt was a little stretchy belt. I feel like I had almost the exact one back in the 80s, but it spelled out jeans all the way around it, and we sold that for $15 on Posh. Sold some makeup on Posh. Laura Geller had found a bunch of Laura Geller at a thrift store one day for like $1 a piece, and so this one sold. I ended up taking an offer for $20. Funny thing on Posh, she left me less than 5 stars. She was happy with it, but she said it was smaller than she expected. And I was like, oh, okay, so when, the amount is right there, but maybe she just meant like how big the little compact thing was smaller than she expected. But nobody really sees, if you have less than 5 stars, those reviews don't show to anybody else. So it doesn't really matter. She was still happy with it. She wasn't going to return it or anything. These glasses, I do remember, I believe we picked them up at our clearance center, and they are not super common for Dr. Pepper drinking glasses, and we had them priced quite a bit higher. I did find some in comps at higher prices, but for some reason we could not give these things, we couldn't, at the price we had originally had them at, we couldn't sell them at that high price. And I think by the time we got this $20 offer on Poshmark, we both were just so tired of these being in our inventory that we were like, yes, throw them in a priority mail box because Poshmark shipping is super easy, and let's get them out of our life. Because, we still made a profit. We're still fine. These I picked up at the thrift store. Did not expect that they would go on Posh, that they would sell on Posh first, but that just goes to show. I had grabbed them thinking they were going to be like a like Norway pewter, something like that. But when I got them home, I opened the little container because I hadn't even looked very closely at them while I was at the thrift store. And they were just kind of like a pressed metal. I don't know. They might have still, yeah, I think they were still pewter, but they didn't have any markings anywhere. But they were just kind of like fisherman themed with fish. It just stuff that I normally have seen on some of that Norwegian pewter. But they weren't marked anything, but they still sold on Poshmark for $31. We sold another hat for $25. Just some random electrical company brand. And then sold some more vintage home goods on Poshmark. These cast iron decorative kitchen utensils. I think I had a couple sets of these. One set we got at Goodwill just on the bag wall, and possibly another set. I remember seeing a set at an estate sale. Don't think I bought it because I think we had already picked up 2 sets of these at various thrift stores. So glad to have moved this set. The other set, I can't remember if it sold already or not. Possibly. $30 for this vintage REI kind of fanny pack, waist bag, vintage hiking gear, like with companies that are still in existence, but the vintage version of things, we seem to do fine buying and selling, and so we had no hesitation to pick this up when we found it. It sold, like I said, for $30. Ruby Lane was super quiet that week. I only sold this little piece of glass that was very distressed. It's like a little picture frame where somebody had put in like a magazine clipping into it. The painted glass was kind of an interesting look, and it was losing paint all over the place. But anyway, I picked it up at a thrift store. I could tell it was super old. Not a thrift store, an estate sale. That yard sale, I know I talked about it in the summer, where everything was $1. It's kind of like a picker's estate sale, whatever. Everything was a buck. So anyway, I picked this up there because it was old, and I can't resist anything that's old. And I was glad to move it on for $15. This was I remember Mr. Pishposh and I found this on the free table at a yard sale that we went to this summer. And so this sold in his Etsy shop that he kind of takes care of for $18. He says to me when it sold, he said, you know what? I've got all this cool stuff, and I've got all this cool stuff listed, and this like yellow brown bowl is the thing that sells. So take from that what you will. Okay, $38.99, this light fixture. It's one of, I pick up fabric. Mr. Pishposh picks up light fixtures. So there we go. We all have our things that we like to pick up. Next, over in the pattern shop, we will do at the end of the month probably an update with my son about how our listing challenge has gone. We're maybe a little bit behind in our actual listing of the patterns and drafting. He's got quite a few to do this week. Not too far behind. He's actually doing pretty good. He's on track. But anyway, we had a few pattern sales that week. This Vogue pattern for these little jackets sold for $12. Another Vogue pattern, $20 sold. It was a Jeffrey Bean coat pattern. And then this costume pattern or making history cosplay type pattern sold for $15 by Butterick. And then hopping over to Depop, we sold these glasses, safety glasses. As you can see, it has the green lenses, but what's cool is it has the safety shields on the side. We always look out for things like that. Vintage safety glasses, especially in those dark frame Elvis Costello kind of styles, always seem to sell pretty well for us. These sold for $45 on Depop. As you can see, it says boosted. That's just their little version of promoting your listing, and that's where they take like an 8%. So I know some sellers, when they took away the the selling fees on Depop just went ahead and put that money into boosting their listings, and they say that they do pretty well. Boosting has helped their sales quite a bit. So we've been playing around with boosting some of the items on there, and we'll see how it goes. Another sale on Depop that week. This sold for not quite that much. I think this one was $21. We took an offer. Dewberry of Galway, Ireland. Galway. Anyway, I'm sure Mr. Pishposh did the research on what that was all about. But it was a new hat. Anyway. Okay. And then last but not least on Depop, and actually for the week, I forgot to check Mercari. I don't know if there were any Mercari sales. Hold on. I'll check that in a second. But we've got this Royal Collection. It was recycled silk, just a funky beanie that, we most likely found at our clearance center. And that did sell for the $18. So let me check Mercari real quick. Okay, nope, nothing on Mercari. I had a feeling not, because we haven't had much action over there lately. So anyway, that's it for the What Sold video for today. Some fun stuff on there. Hope you guys learned a tidbit or two that you can use in your own reselling. Leave me a comment, as always, down below about how your reselling is going. How have you had any super awesome scores or sales or things like that we always like to read. I don't know about you, but I read all the comments. I think some of you read each other's comments too, so feel free to maybe pick up a few more tips from the other viewers down in the comments below. Okay, we will see you later on in the week, especially for sure Flatware Friday, and I hope you guys are doing great.